Turn on your inner light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Dr. Nicolas Bazan, a neuroscientist and Alzheimer's researcher trained at Columbia University and Harvard, appointed faculty by the Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center, where he has established and now heads the Neuroscience Center of Excellence, and he is the author of a novel, Vida, See Where Music and Alzheimer's Intersect. Welcome, Dr. Bazan.
Oh, thank you very much, Debbie. I'm delighted to be with you.
Now, what does music do for the brain from a neuroscience perspective?
I think there is a fascinating connection between music and the brain, because we know that the human brain has many specialized areas that are really that resonate and are connected and make connections in a special way with music. So a major contemporary effort is relating music therapy, doing therapy for patients with neurodegenerative diseases. The approach that I have taken in the book, in my novel, is not therapy through music, but is actually the connection between music and the mind. In fact, the subheading in the cover of the book is said a fable of music and the mind, because the angle that I took is slightly different, and people become interested about that angle. Would you like to know about it? I mean, how I see it?
Yes, I like that you generate your own questions for the interview. I think that's very cute.
So, it's fiction, but in a way, it's fiction-based reality. The book, and there is a neuroscientist by the name of Alvaro Cruz who works in New Orleans and loves music, and so he goes to the French Quarter one day and he found a jazz singer by the name of Vida, who is affected with Alzheimer's disease. But the issue is that Vida, although affected with Alzheimer's, she has mesmerizing vocals, an incredible recollection of jazz lyrics, and there is only occasional verbal revisiting of her fascinating life, and this neuroscientist interacting with her sees that her mind was fading very, very quickly, and so the neuroscientist searches for Vida's true identity, and in the novel he learns profound lessons about the human mind and the nature of memory, and also about himself in a way.
Well, I think that people generally, when they investigate or when physicians really interact with a patient,
right,
then you learn about yourself. Now, I noticed that patients afflicted with Alzheimer's who might not be able to speak can sing, and music is used in nursing homes to bring out this kind of memory, or at least some kind of rhythm. Now, I want to ask you about what's going on in Alzheimer's research, because as a neuroscientist...
Well, that's what I have done essentially in the book, because I wanted, as the arc of the story, to tell the reader all the excitement and, I would say, possibilities coming out of neuroscience research for patients with Alzheimer's.
So what have you found? Can you tell us a few new nuggets?
Well, what we found is essentially is that early on in the development of the disease, there is a shortage in the memory areas of the brain of certain chemical, of one chemical that we have discovered that, interestingly, is related with dietary components, with omega-3 fatty acids.
Mm-hmm.
And the omega-3 fatty acids are rich in fish oils, and they are called essential because the human body cannot make them. So we need to acquire them from the diet. As soon as we eat foods with omega-3 fatty acids, they go and accumulate in the brain and in the retinas of the eye more than in any other tissue of the body. So they are very important for the structure of the central nervous system. And what we have found is that they are a reservoir of a compound that is produced early on in the development of Alzheimer's disease and of other neurodegenerative diseases. And we have coined the name of neuroprotectin D1 of this protective molecule that the brain has stored in the cells. So we are very excited about how it works and what it does at the level of cells in the brain, particularly in the memory area of the brain.
How much would I need to take of it? And let me ask you a twofold question while I have your attention on that. Is it the same as eating salmon versus taking fish oil capsules? And how much do I need to ingest to reap either prevention or postponement?
Well, we believe that, and I'll answer your question telling you about the biology, and then specifically about your question. The biology tells us that this is very important for the organization and function of the brain. Now, how do we get there? Of course, salmon and fish oil supplements contain omega-3 fatty acids, but what we have found also through our research and the research of others is that the way that these essential fatty acids get in the brain is not as simple as just taking fish oil supplements every day and it will get into the brain and everything will be well. There is a regulation in the human body about the intake of nutrients. The same is true with vitamins. If the body doesn't need a given supplement, the body has systems to not take it. You know, we eliminate the excessive amount of some of these nutrients. And this is a very important area of contemporary research. So, with the omega-3 fatty acids, there is a complex system in our body to get it from the diet into the brain. I believe for sure the best approach is a balanced diet where salmon and seafood like salmon
let's hold this important point for a moment because we have to go to commercial break. Sure. And I don't want to rush it. I know our listeners are eager. We will return with Dr. Nicolas Bazan, author of Una Vida.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout on Amazon.
listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Dr. Nicolas Bazan. He's a neuroscientist and Alzheimer's researcher and the author of the novel Vida. Now, before commercial break, we were speaking about a healthy diet, particularly, eating the fatty fishes or taking a fish oil supplement, and then you were speaking about the delivery into the brain, how to ingest those nutrients, the blood-brain barrier. How do we get it there?
Well, actually, my point was that the diet the healthy eating is the most important approach, and during the last 100 years, civilization have changed the way that we eat and the content of the foods that we eat. They contain much more omega-6 fatty acids, which are also needed, but at the same time, those omega-6 fatty acids that are rich in red meat, and particularly in the fat that red meat contains, many of those are not very helpful for the biology of our arteries and of our brain. And so I believe a balanced diet, 3-4 servings a week at least of fatty fish like salmon, plus very rich salads, because in addition to omega-3 fatty acids, we need to ingest antioxidants that are present and vitamins that are present in vegetables. So I believe a balanced diet is the best approach. Obviously, the good supplements are also needed. The amount typically is in the gram per day of DHA, which is one of the components of fish oil, but there are some specifics there. The ideal supplement is one that contains very little EPA, eicosapentaenoic acid, because some of the supplements contain a lot of EPA and less DHA. The other way around is the right formula. So, but the healthy diet, I believe, is the main component to answer your question. And
what's the role of stress? Stress unleashes an inflammatory process in the body. Now, a little stress is good for you, too much, and we have trouble. Do you view it as a trigger, or is it just the issue?
Yeah, there are different degrees of stress. For example, PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or post-traumatic stress disorders, that are seen in the military coming back from war sites, and we have seen it in New Orleans after Katrina. There was a lot of PTSD. That type of massive stress induces several processes in the body, particularly what is called an inflammatory response. And in the brain, that happens, and we call it neuroinflammation. Interestingly, we have discovered that neuroprotectin D1 from omega-3 fatty acids is a potent resolver of neuroinflammation, because in the brain, in Alzheimer's and in all of these neurodegenerative diseases, in the early stages there is a neuroinflammatory response, and what one needs to do is prevent that inflammation become chronic, because the chronic inflammation is what damages the brain cells. And what neuroprotectin does is like a switch that prevents chronicity of neuroinflammation and resolves the inflammatory response by switching several genes and several harmful mechanisms for the cell and up-regulating beneficial reactions within the cell. So yes, stress is linked to inflammation as well as in diseases.
Do you find that there's a role to exercise? Studies have been done with rats running, and they feel that there is new cells being created in the brain.
Absolutely. We have in our brain niches of cells that are there for the purpose of replacing other cells. And this is an emerging area of neurosciences, because we need to find out how we can tickle those stem cells in the adult brain in order to replace cells that have been damaged by various diseases, Alzheimer, stroke, epilepsy, various diseases that destroy cells in our brain. And absolutely, exercise is not only in experimental animals, but there are studies also in humans. I believe the balanced diet and physical activity are very important for wellness and health. I mean, those things go together. And what we have done in America particularly, not in Europe, but in America, is even to go 3-4 blocks away we drive, and we walk less, and this is part of our culture, and so that's why people go to gyms and try to walk in the morning. And so the answer to your question is absolutely, it's very important for the cardiovascular system, for the cerebrovascular system, and for the brain. Why for the brain? Why worry about the brain with exercise? Because the circulatory system is able to nourish the brain better, because the oxygenation of the blood reaches better. If you don't do that, there is a sort of a delay in the nutrients and oxygen crossing the blood-brain barrier, and that is a cofactor or a factor of comorbidity in many of these diseases.
That's an excellent point. We're going to go to commercial break and return with Dr. Nicolas Bazan, a neuroscientist and Alzheimer's researcher and author of the novel Una Vida. He's very versatile and creative. Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is a message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers. Back with Dr. Nicolas Bazan. He's a neuroscientist and novelist. I like that. It's alliterative. Now, I want to ask you an interesting question that came to my mind. You're an Alzheimer's researcher, and you write a novel with the central character having it. Why did you feel the need to express yourself in that way? Have you experienced something firsthand with Alzheimer's in your family?
Well, no, but I have been impacted by the caregivers, by the families, I mean, of patients affected, and by I would say the impact that has this progressive brain disease. So what I wanted, the main objective was to convey the message of hope for patients and families, because I believe through the research going on in neurosciences today, we are going to be able to conquer this disease. At least we are going to be able to delay the progression, meaning that if somebody could have cognition protected during 10 years or 15 years, it could be a major advancement. And so I wanted to really convey a message of hope, and the conclusion of the novel is really very uplifting in a way. And that, I don't know if you're aware, but a motion picture will be developed very soon. I mean, the screenplay has been developed based on my novel. I don't know if you were aware of that.
That's exciting and a creative endeavor. I always say that if you suffer a kind of loss or destruction to your psyche, that creativity fills that hole, and I think creativity stimulates the brain as well. So in creating a book about it, and I find it interesting about your sensitivity to caregivers. It must be very hard to give people a death sentence all the time, which is what it is. I know you are tapping into the hope, but we've heard so many hopeful things, and it's been decades. When do you see any kind of hope, let's say of postponement? I'm not even speaking of a cure. Will it take another decade? Will it be 2 decades? I mean, the consumer, the patient is really, is exasperated. In the baby boomers in another 20, 30 years, my God, we're going to drain the economy.
You are absolutely right, and it's difficult for me, and I will not tell you how many years, but difficult for me to make a prediction. But all what we see now, unlike 10, 15 years ago, is a lot of resources devoted to understand this terrible disease. And if we understand through neuroscience research the basic mechanisms that fail in the brain, we will be able to develop therapeutic approaches and also preventive approaches.
It's always easier to prevent than to treat. I mean, that's like with diabetes, which is another possible predictor. But let me ask you, is there anything now that you would prescribe to a patient in good faith and feel it's going to help?
Right. Well, that is very difficult, to say what you will do to a patient. I mean, how will you prescribe? And there are several experimental treatments being developed, in fact, by 4 or 5 companies, and many laboratories are actually actively working on this. But the emphasis that I want to put to answer your question, why I'm hopeful, is because of the quality, high quality neuroscience research on the mechanisms of the disease is what is going to make the breakthroughs.
Yes, and it does sound very nice, and I know you've written a novel as fiction, a fable, but as a wary consumer, I don't know. And I do know if it is diet, the drug companies won't be very interested in it. So all we could do is, what you're doing is tell people to do the best they can and enjoy the time we have. My philosophy, apropos to your movie, is we come in the middle of the movie and we leave in the middle of the movie. Make it a good movie. So I'm with you. Thank you for being a wonderful guest, and I wish you great success with Una Vida.
Thank you very much for the interview. Thank you.
Affirmation of the week. Love means finding someone who will do the boring things with you. How's that? Anyone could be in love with excitement. People who have been unlucky in love are said to suffer from a broken heart. A broken heart is an actual medical condition. Broken heart syndrome occurs during highly stressful or emotional times, such as a painful breakup, the death of a spouse, or even the loss of a job. Broken heart syndrome is called stress cardiomyopathy. Symptoms are similar to those of a heart attack, and they include chest pain, difficulty breathing, but the good news is that over time the symptoms will go away. And unlike heart attack patients, people with broken heart syndrome do not suffer any lasting damage to their hearts. A new study from Vida University shows that with support from the supervisor, the employee is more likely to stay at work and be productive. Well, that seems like a no-brainer to me. A new magnetic therapy that treats major depression is rapidly gaining momentum. Nearly 300 centers in the United States now offer transcranial magnetic stimulation. In a surprising finding with significant implications for older women, researchers at Albert Einstein College of Medicine and New York University School of Medicine have found that high levels of triglycerides, the blood fats, are the strongest risk factor for the most common type of stroke in older women. It's more of a risk factor than elevated levels of total cholesterol or LDL cholesterol, which is the bad cholesterol. And the study appears in Stroke magazine. And 9 out of 10 adults eat too much salt every day. And there's processed foods and restaurant foods, and we all know that, but you are going to be surprised to learn who the biggest offenders are. It's bread and rolls, more than potato chips, because we eat more bread and rolls than we do potato chips. So high sodium levels, what that's going to do for you, to you, is increase blood pressure, and it's going to put people at higher risk for heart disease and stroke. So look for less sodium in the breads that you buy. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, totally free. TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. And all the radio shows with the guest experts are archived for your listening pleasure on TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. You can subscribe to my free newsletter, and you will get the latest radio interview and a fresh new article on stress management and all the health tips fully explained, emailed directly to you from TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.